Welcome to this week's edition of Indigo Living Leading Lady Series. This is a job that I truly love. It's a privilege that each week I get to share stories of incredible women across the globe doing inspiring things, whether they're philanthropists, lawyers, doctors, finance. I mean, the list goes on. But this week I'm super excited to welcome my friend, founder of SG Legal Consultants. She is changing the way women look at the legal system, how to protect themselves, and of course, how to plan for the future. Please welcome Soma. Yay! I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
I feel like we're going to be talking about an uncomfortable subject, but
yeah, unfortunately
with legal, I just feel like it's this gray cloud that people always want to avoid. But I think sometimes if you just look at it straightforward and deal with things and prepare yourself, it doesn't have to be so bad.
I think I totally agree with you. Thank you for saying that, because it is an uncomfortable subject and people try and brush it under the carpet. But at the same time, if you're practical, it's not glamorous, but it's something that we need to think about in a day-to-day life.
But glamorous is you. You're looking very fashionable today, But I want to start with your career, because I feel like you were in the corporate side of the legal side. Absolutely. Back in the UK.
Yeah.
I pretty well know it's a very male-dominated space. How did, one, you decide to go in the legal field? How did you choose for that to be your career? And secondly, what was it transitioning into a corporate environment?
So yeah, exactly. I did my training and all my education in London, and I got into law because I was from a lovely Asian family, and my mum was very, very passionate about me getting into that side of things. So that's how I got into it, studying wise. Then I joined a firm, a big law firm that is very corporate, and basically they put me into the corporate side of things, and I was the only female surrounded by males, and that was tough. That was tough at that time because you had to prove yourself, you had to do the hours. I mean, there were some days I didn't come home because you have to put in the hours like everybody else. But as I progressed, I could see that there was a little bit of a, it was a difference, how I was treated as opposed to the
new generation as well.
Exactly.
We were talking about that now. I mean, I think just in the past year and a half, so many big corporations, whether it's in investment banking or in the law firms, they've changed the way of doing business. And probably that's from the pandemic that we just had and this idea of working from home. But things have really changed for women. I think it's allowed women to have a little bit more of a balance in some ways.
Absolutely. And also, we're talking about 30 years ago when I was first doing it. Now, things are much easier. I have 3 daughters, and I've always instilled in them that you're as good and better than everybody else. So I feel that they have that message, and they don't feel what we had so many years ago. And also with the pandemic, people are working from home. I mean, now most of my work is on Zoom, which is amazing because I have that work-life balance and I'm not spending all my time in the office, which, it is tough as a working mum. It can be tough.
So one of the great things about Dubai, which I always tell people, it's a city of adaptation because it's such a new city. And I think if you have a niche in the market, you can really be that entrepreneur that you want to be.
Absolutely.
How did you come to Dubai? Because you had a very successful career in the UK. And then secondly, how did SG Legal Consultants start?
So it's interesting. We moved because family reasons, work reasons. And then when I got here, I've had a career break for so long. It's, as you say, it's such an amazing country. You can do so much in the UAE. And it didn't matter that I hadn't been in the working environment for so long. I was able to join a firm and start again. But one of the reasons that I got into this private client work and DIFC wills and will making is because of an incident that happened to a very close friend of mine. And that showed me that there was a gap in the market and something that I could get involved with.
So let's talk about your company. You actually chose to specialize in will
drafting, succession planning.
Will drafting is the right word. I was just going to say will making, but no, will drafting is the right word. It is something, and this is what we were talking about earlier, is that this is a topic that really no one wants to talk about.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about succession. You don't want to talk about, everyone just wants to be happy and living the best life.
Absolutely.
And when you think sadly of your end of your life, people really think it's your 70s, 80s, and 90s, when if you're not prepared, it is very uncomfortable. You gave a great example of a very young family, which this has happened to.
Yeah, so basically the reason I got into will drafting is because a really dear friend of mine, when I came here, her husband died unexpectedly, and she had 3 young children, and they had never, I mean, it's not dinner conversation, is it? Oh, you made your will. You don't really think about it. And she hadn't planned anything. So she was left alone here with young family, no husband, no will. It was a mess, unfortunately. And to sort it out would have cost her much more time, effort, money than she had. So in that situation, she took the family and left, which would have been totally avoidable. I mean, I talk to her now, and I'm always saying, look, you know, if you just got a bit more organized, or if you had a plan in place, you would have been protected. And that's, you know, that's all I want to do. And that's the reason that I set up this firm, is basically to put this message across, to protect women, to protect families from ever having to go through something like that.
And what is the steps, or what is the conversation that families need to be having? Because I always say this, even when I was speaking with my parents, it's an uncomfortable topic to bring up to parents who are seniors, and having to say, God forbid if something happens, let's just have a system in place. So we just have to press the button and things just come aligned.
Absolutely.
It is an uncomfortable situation, but what are the questions we should be asking?
So basically, you need to know, in any family situation, whether it's your father, whether it's your brother, basically what your assets are. If you have children, those are the 2 main things, because that's what you want to protect in the UAE. And the great thing that the DIFC have done is they've introduced worldwide wills. And now we all have assets everywhere in the world. So if we can put it under one umbrella and have one document, one legal paper ready for us, just in place, then everything else just works out beautifully. You don't have to have that stress like my friend went through. So as you say, the things that we're asking are the assets, protecting the children, finding out, just thinking, putting your mind on what you have as a family or an individual, and getting a will in place.
One of the other things, you know, we've had different guests on the show that have talked about women in finance. And again, it's an uncomfortable topic to talk about, is money and future planning. But I always say the bills don't stop. So you could be having a stressful day, but that electricity bill is still going, that phone bill is still going. Absolutely. And so how does a woman save for her future? Like what do you recommend for?
So listen, I'm really very pro this, and I think it's very important that women know their rights and know how to protect themselves, especially in the UAE. So you need a bank account in your own name. That has to be.
I hope everyone's writing this down, because this is something that is so important.
It's so important because
it gives you, and well, just not only on the idea of wills and future planning, but having your own bank account and funds, and having a little bit of financial independence and security changes the game of relationships and families.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And gives you confidence.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about it all the time, that you can be in a great relationship and I'll look after you, but actually you need to know what you have and how, God forbid, he's not there or she's not there, whatever it is, you're protected. So bank account.
The bank account in your name.
Definitely. Property, now, whether that's you own it or you're renting in your name, because God forbid something happens, then where are you going to stay? I mean, that's the most important thing. And then the last thing I would say is an arrangement about the children. That's really important. So guardianship, that's a key asset. You've got to make sure that your children are protected.
So 3 great tips there. Children, finances, and a roof over your head. And going forward, how did you specialize in wills? Was it just this aha moment? Because I feel like entrepreneurs always have this light bulb moment where they see a niche in the market? Was that
So it
your
was
moment?
basically what happened with my friend. And then I thought to myself, well, you know what? People don't know. I mean, the expat community here, the community here are not aware because, as you say, people don't want to talk about this. And it was mainly for me, it's just putting the message out there, how ladies can protect themselves, how they need to plan, how they need to safeguard. Even if one person watches this today and thinks, right, I've got to have that difficult conversation.
Yeah.
I've got to start thinking about what I have. I've got to protect my children because it can happen. And I've seen it happen. So yeah, that's really why I wanted to get into it. And I love it. I love my work. So I'm lucky.
You're lucky, and you literally are changing lives and keeping people safe. You don't want to be at that situation because these situations happen very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And you have to know your rights in a place where it's constantly changing as well. So having that one document that you can take all over the world with you will really safeguard.
Absolutely. And I have to say, the DIFC Wills Registry are amazing because they will guide you through everything. So, you know, if you do, your partner dies, you have that mind, your mind is at rest because you can go and they will walk you through everything. So your assets are distributed, your children are protected, and you're grieving at the same time. So it kind of makes it a much, if I can say, easier process to go through.
And what is your secret for juggling it all? You have 3 beautiful daughters. And I always say this, what a great example to have a mom who is successful in her career and to see you working. I think you're a great example for not only your daughters, but for women out there.
That's so lovely, Rosemary. No, I have an amazing husband.
That's a good answer.
I have to say it.
On a side note, her birthday's on Valentine's Day, so you know why her gifts are good. She knows what to say.
No, I really do.
No, you have a great family.
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I'm so blessed. And so I have the support. So I'm lucky that way. And that's why I love doing what I do.
You know, I was listening to a podcast with Shonda Rhimes and of course she's one of the most successful, TV creators globally. And they asked her, can a woman have it all? And I feel like most people, when you hear that question, the women are like, yeah, you can have it all. And she actually said, she goes, actually, you have to give up. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And she goes, you do have to give up something. She goes, I might give up that dance rehearsal because I'm on the set of Grey's Anatomy, and doing the finale, or I'm at the dance rehearsal and I'm missing the finale without her team and her production team. But she goes, at the end of the day, she goes, my daughter is seeing a mom who is making a difference, whether she is the mom at the school cheering her daughter on, or she's the mom on, the #1 show. And it was this kind of great example of that both ways are still very positive the way you look at it. And I feel like women have a lot of pressure and everyone just has the same 24 hours and it's how you manage your time.
Absolutely. And it's a partnership.
And the role model.
And it's a partnership with my husband. We try and do it. And our children now, our girls are a little bit older, so it is easier. It's tough when they're young. You're right. You're pulled in every direction. Yeah. And as women, you have that guilt as well. You're like, okay, I didn't go to that. Oh, I have to do that.
Yeah.
But you know what? As long as everyone's healthy and happy, and that's the whole thing. You just want to love what you're doing, and then they see that and they think, okay, it's okay. She didn't come to my netball practice.
Yeah,
she will do something else.
No, you have a great family, and the girls are amazing to have a role model like you.
Yes.
And finally, for women, what are some tips you can share going forward?
For
just planning and just really knowing the legal system
Right. So, look, wills aside, I think the most important thing that the take back today should be about looking at their own situation and having those conversations with their partners, or if they're on their own, just knowing exactly what they have, their assets wise, because a lot of women don't know that. A lot of my friends are wives and the husbands are very much like, okay, we'll look after it all.
Yeah.
That's not, we want transparency. You need to have, as I've said, your own financial independence. But more than that, I think just having yourself organized and a list of what is available to you and what is in the family. Because look, in our Asian families, there's a lot of, okay, it's there. nobody actually knows.
Yeah.
So this is what, it's just
Having a
about
sense of clarity.
I think clarity, transparency, that's really
And
important.
also these conversations, we're talking about it when you are married, but actually these conversations of finance, raising children, the value system, this should actually have these conversations before you get married.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I always say that as well when everyone's kind of in that bubble of romance, and then when the wedding's over and you don't know if there's a household credit card or who's paying the groceries or who's paying the electricity bill.
Yeah.
These are conversations that if they were just, I mean, they're uncomfortable conversations to talk about it.
But that's practical. And
but
that's
you
what
have to have these practical
practical
conversations before you get married and start a family to make sure you're on the right.
And that's exactly
track.
what I did with my husband. We were very clear about it before because of how we want to raise the children. Because it can happen, you know, we're from two different backgrounds. You have to find a middle ground.
Yeah.
And you need to know that kind of going in, because otherwise 10 years later, it's all a mess. So yeah, very, very important point.
Now at Indigo Living, their motto is living beautifully. What does living beautifully mean to you?
Oh, happiness and peace inside. It's all about inside, and being able to radiate that with all, you know, everybody that you meet, that they go away thinking, okay, yeah, she has actually made an impression and she's made me feel like I've learned something.
I love that. Well, we have definitely learned something for sure on this segment. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. They were honestly so practical, and I think it's a conversation that we have to start having now. So thank you for being on the show.
I enjoyed it. I loved it.
Thank you. And for more information on SG Legal, I'm going to put all the details here. They can contact you. And of course, thank you for inspiring us every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week on our On the Couch series with leading women. Indigo Living's mission is to live beautifully, live in peace and happiness, and surround yourself with positive people. And each week I hope to invite an inspiring leading lady to join me and share their career journey. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to share with you our next story next week.